She was 19 years old. She walked onto Steve Harvey's stage smiling, with her 3 younger siblings beside her. She told the producers she was applying to college, that she worked at a diner on weekends, that her family had been through some hard times but was doing better now. What she didn't tell anyone, what came out slowly, carefully, in a conversation that Steve Harvey had to earn, was that for the past 4 years, starting when she was 15 years old, she had been raising her 3 siblings alone, completely alone. And the reason why broke Steve Harvey in ways that television rarely gets to show. Her name was Jasmine Cole. She came from a small city in central Alabama. Her siblings were Isaiah, 14, Destiny, 11, and Trey, 7, who could barely reach the podium buzzers on the family Feud set and found this situation deeply motivating. A community center director had written the show's producers about Jasmine. The letter described her as someone whose ceiling was the sky if life would just give her a ladder. That phrase had gotten the letter flagged within hours. In pre-screening, Jasmine was warm, quick-witted, and careful. She talked about her siblings with obvious love. She talked about the community center where she'd taken coding classes. She talked about the tutoring she'd started doing for younger kids. She talked about her job at the diner and about applying to the state university on a partial scholarship. She did not talk about her parents. The producers noted this. They flagged it for the segment producer. "She's protecting something," one of them said in the production meeting. "She is extraordinarily composed, and there is a wall around one specific part of her story." Steve Harvey, when told, said, "Don't push it in pre-production. If there's a moment, I'll find it." The Feud round was the kind of television that writers couldn't manufacture on purpose. Trey announced himself to the audience before the game started, walked to the edge of the stage, put his hands on his hips and said, "I'm Trey. I'm 7. And we're gonna win." The audience was immediately his. Steve Harvey looked at this child and said, "Oh, we got a problem today." Trey played Family Feud with the intensity of an Olympic athlete in a very small body. He buzzed in on questions he hadn't fully heard yet. He argued with Steve about whether his wrong answers should have counted. He attempted to help Isaiah by whispering answers from 3 feet away in a voice audible throughout the studio. Isaiah, at 14, was the quiet one. He had Jasmine's eyes and Jasmine's way of standing still when everyone else was moving. Every time he answered correctly, every single time, he looked immediately at Jasmine. Not at the scoreboard, not at the audience, at his sister. Checking in with her. The way people check in with the person who has always been the ground under their feet. Destiny, 11, was stylish and deeply self-aware about it. She had accessorized her outfit with 3 hair clips and informed Steve Harvey within the first 2 minutes of their acquaintance that she planned to be a fashion designer. Steve said she had good taste. Destiny examined his pocket square with a critical eye. "Yours is nice," she said carefully. "But I wouldn't have done that color." Jasmine laughed at all of it and watched all of it, managing, always managing from the edge of the frame. They won the game, largely on the strength of Trey's inexplicable buzzer instincts and Isaiah's quiet accuracy. Steve settled the family onto the interview couch. He started easy and warm, talking to Trey about school, to Destiny about Paris, to Isaiah about what came after high school. "Maybe engineering," Isaiah said quietly. "Jasmine thinks I'd be good at it." That was the 4th time one of the siblings had deferred to Jasmine as the authority on something significant. Steve turned to Jasmine. "You are clearly the one everyone looks to," he said. "How long have you been the big sister of this crew?" Jasmine smiled, composed, easy. "Always, I guess." "I don't mean that in the normal big sibling way," Steve said, and his voice shifted. a tone lower, more direct, less host, and more human. I mean in the real way. Because it seems like you're not just the oldest, you're something more. We've had some hard times, she said. How old were you when the hard times started? The smile held. 15. What happened when you were 15? A pause, tiny, controlled. My mom got sick, she said. Steve let the silence breathe. And your dad? And here, Jasmine's composure held, but her hands, folded in her lap, pressed together harder. He left, she said. A little before that. What followed was slow and careful and completely real. Jasmine's mother's illness had started with symptoms that were initially misdiagnosed. By the time anyone understood what they were dealing with, her mother needed full-time care, in and out of hospitals, stretches of weeks where she simply could not parent, could barely speak. Jasmine was 15 years old. She made breakfast. She got the kids to school. She checked homework. She made doctor's appointments and called the electric company when the bill was late. She learned to talk to landlords and stretch $80 of groceries into a week and a half. She did not miss one of Trey's school programs in 4 years. Not one. She also, somehow, finished high school. She graduated with a 3.7 GPA. She said all of it with the same controlled composure she'd walked in with. She wasn't performing strength, she just had it. The kind that is not chosen but required, and that after enough time becomes the only mode you know. Isaiah was no longer trying to hold it together. He was staring at his hands, jaw tight, 14 years old, and working very hard not to cry in a television studio. Destiny had stopped the fashion designer Confidence and was just a little girl leaning against her sister's arm. Tree, boisterous, invincible Tree, was sitting still, watching Jasmine with eyes that were too old for his face. Steve Harvey watched all of them. He let Jasmine finish. Then, how did you do it? She thought about it genuinely. Not performing humility. I didn't have the option not to, she said finally. They needed me. You don't ask how when someone needs you. You just go. Steve Harvey looked at Isaiah first. Your sister went to war for you, he said. At 15 years old, she chose you. Every single day. That is not normal. That is extraordinary. And I need you to spend the rest of your life knowing what she gave you. Isaiah nodded. His jaw was so tight it trembled. Steve looked at Destiny. She made sure you got to be a kid. Did you know that? She carried the heavy stuff so you didn't have to. Destiny pressed her face into Jasmine's shoulder. Then he looked at Trey. And when he spoke to Trey, the showman voice was completely gone. Just softness. You are going to grow up knowing you were loved. Because of her. He turned to Jasmine. You are not extraordinary in spite of what you've been through. You are extraordinary because of what you chose to do when you had every reason not to. Jasmine, after all of it, let out a breath that had been held for 4 years. Her eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. She let them. A foundation representative came onto the stage. The show's production team had been quietly working. The scholarship fund that was announced, combining the show's resources, private donors, and the foundation, was enough to cover Jasmine's full tuition, room, and board for all 4 years of university. Jasmine went completely still when she heard the number. Steve gently touched her arm. You okay? She looked at him. I just want to make sure I actually heard that, she said. The audience erupted. Steve laughed. You heard it. She stood up, and in the middle of a television studio, surrounded by cameras and lights, and an audience she'd known for less than an hour, Jasmine wrapped both arms around Trey and held on. Trey held on right back. Isaiah put his arms around both of them. Then, Destiny. Steve Harvey stepped back, gave them their moment completely, every second of it. They had earned every single one. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that strength comes in every age and form. And leave a comment. Who is your family's unsung hero?